We are in the process of destroying this planet.
You are? You're in the process. It was Earth Day recently, a time for us all to reflect on the ecology and whether ecological disaster and decline is being caused by individuals like us or great big powerful corporations that frequently use greenwashing messages around ecology in order to promote their interests. So who is to blame for climate change, global meltdown, the problems the world's facing? Is it you or is it giant corporations?
As environmentally conscious practices become more and more commonplace, corporations are helping us make better decisions.
Good old corporations, we can always rely on them to help us make better decisions. The priority of corporations has always been better decisions for the environment. In fact, if you stack up what's best for the consumer and the environment here and what's best for the corporations here, it's only ever going to go one way, and I don't think any of us doubt what way that is.
By giving us eco-friendly options. Or are they? Believe it or not, it's much harder to tell the difference now between a product that's actually all green from one that is simply been greenwashed.
What we mean by greenwash is the reality that the corporation or company present versus the actual reality, what they actually do. Often what happens is they do one or two things that they heavily promote and sort of smash into your face to distract you from other activity that, you know, usually is greatly at odds with the messaging that we're receiving. And also I think the sort of broader ideological presentation that you are individually responsible. I sit there doing all that recycling in my heart of hearts thinking, is there any point in me rinsing out this jar of Dolmio? Is there? Is that what's required? I'll get the old Dolmio out, I've put it in the correct bin. Is everything going to be okay now, Jesus?
The world today is confronted with an urgent carbon crisis. Today we are making the commitment that by 2030, Microsoft will be carbon negative.
People, do we clap now for this carbon negative?
Carbon negative.
All right, so there you go. Trees, piano, everything's okay. Microsoft announced an initiative to go zero waste by 2030. I mean, zero waste, you shouldn't get a round of applause for that. I plan to stop punching my children in the face, by 2030. Fucking hell, it's stages. And to source 100% renewable energy by 2050. But here's the reality, you heard it. Pledges, neutral, 2030. They've all got their sights set on good old 2030, didn't they? It's because it's like, it can't be too soon, but it's got to sound, it can't sound stupidly far off. Microsoft has partnered with, if you're looking to sort out carbon neutrality, you've got to go with people who know the business inside out. That's why Microsoft has partnered with oil giants Chevron and Schlumberger, world's largest oil field service provider, to accelerate oil field development and extraction of fossil fuels. That would, hold on a minute, that's not going to help. This would increase carbon emissions. This kind of partnership is not new to the company. Microsoft has aggressively courted the oil industry, forming partnerships with ExxonMobil and hosting exhibitions like Empowering Oil and Gas with AI at industry conferences. I just find that a bit offensive, don't you? Like doing all that and that lovely piano that we were all into. That is why we're going to be carbon neutral by 8:30. Well, that seems to, 2030. And now it's our good friends at Chevron and Exxon. You can't do that. We're doing that at 2030 also.
Not just across our direct emissions, but across our supply chain too.
It's like for children, like just showing us a bunch of pictures of trees. Look, there's some trees, I'll stand in front of some trees. It's like taking the piss a bit, isn't it?
We must take responsibility to address the carbon footprint of our own technology and company, but we will also go beyond that.
Well, you won't, will you? Because it's worse what you're doing. Don't pretend you're actually going beyond it. We're going beyond it, but backwards beyond it. Back a beyond.
By 2050, we will remove from the environment all of the carbon we have emitted directly or by electrical consumptions since our company's founding in 1975.
Is that good, 2050? Even the people there at Microsoft have been forced to attend this in their lunch break. I'm going to struggle to clap. I can do this clap for that.
This is the decade for urgent action, for Microsoft and for all of us, to take bold steps forward to address our most pressing challenges. We hope you will join us on this journey.
Well, you will, because you work at Microsoft. And the other thing is, that that's not what's really happening, is it? This has been better speech. Look, it's got out of hand. People are starting to realise where real power lies. It lies with big organisations, not with individuals. We're going to have to put on a lovely little slideshow in front of some plants to get a little bit of breathing space. Ironically, there won't be much breathing space by 2030 because there's going to be carbon emissions all over everything. It's going to be too late. So just own it. Don't pretend Microsoft's primary concern is everyone else. Microsoft's primary concern is Microsoft. What they should say is, look, we're going to do everything we can to make a profit, only concessions where absolutely necessary, and we'll try to minimise the impact on their shareholders. That's just what capitalism is. I suppose you don't need to reiterate how these systems function, but don't blatantly lie about it. It's rude and it's offensive to the plants.
Because each of us must commit to do more in order for us to collectively achieve more.
That's sort of true in a sense of like, spiritual awakening. But in this context here, the idea of continually depositing blame and culpability with individuals, you reform the narrative to be about individual culpability rather than, well, collective responsibility or even institutional responsibility. Of course, it's better if I as an individual recycle and do my bit and everything, but it's not going to make a blind bit of difference if people in positions of real power don't make radical changes, and those radical changes would necessarily mean altering their business model. In a more sort of homespun and simple way, as part of my 12-step philosophy, we're told that you have to do service, i.e. you have to do things for other people. And the definition of service, it has to be inconvenient to you. If it's not inconvenient to you, then it wasn't service. If it's like, oh, well, I was going to do that anyway, that's no problem. What Microsoft are doing is what they've always done, maximising the efficiency of Microsoft. There'll never be something they do like, we have Jeff Bezos, I've given away all this money. How much money you got now? More than ever. Well, how is that giving away money?
Jeff Bezos out with his next big idea, announcing a multi-billion-dollar effort to fight climate change, calling it the Bezos Earth Fund.
In 2019, Amazon co-founded the Climate Pledge, FEW, to be net zero by 2040, aiming for 100% renewable power by 2025, making half of its deliveries carbon neutral by 2030. In 2020, Bezos announced via Instagram 10 billion in grants to kickstart the Bezos Earth Fund. Well, that all sounds brilliant, doesn't it? You hear that? 10 billion, carbon neutral, 2030. It's all going to be fine. Let's have a look at some other information that's equally true and see what you think is going to have the biggest impact on the planet. Jeff Bezos is infamously misleading when it comes to donating to charitable causes, touting big sums while only providing a fraction. Amazon has a poor record on environmental issues. No, it doesn't. I just told you, Earth Fund has poor record on environmental issues, employee rights and taxes, and their business model relies on overconsumption.
We are in the process of destroying this planet.
You are? You're in the process. Who's we? I'm trying my best. I'm washing out my Dolmio jars. It's you. You're in the process of destroying this planet with these great vast hangars filled with the world's poor, putting stuff into cardboard. When it's like responsibility, it's we. When it's who's getting the bonuses, it's I.
We have to work together to meet these goals. It has to be done that way.
Late last year, Bezos co-founded the Climate Pledge for businesses.
What's the iconography of this? These blankets being pulled down to reveal some stuff. Like, this is Amazon, the kind of resources they've got. And it's like something happening at a church fete. And now, Janet, pull down the blanket.
That pledge came just one day before thousands of Amazon employees walked off the job as part of a global climate strike.
Like, so if you do really care, look, right, hold on a minute. Jeff, there's an opportunity to do something. Thousands of people, they've walked off the job. They don't feel like they're being real treated. Is there anything I can do with the blankets? I could get Janet. I paid her £3 for an hour. She's still available for another 26 minutes. So, Janet, put the blankets back up.
The group has criticized Amazon's tech contracts with oil and gas companies and alleged retaliation against workers who voiced concerns about the company's environmental impact.
Think of the power that they could do. If there was a genuine, like these people, they turn up on your TV set and say, right, I'm dedicated to change. Well, bloody hell, that's brilliant, because you've got these incredible resources. If you want change, if you genuinely want change, it's going to happen. You're as powerful as a country. That's like if Amazon says, we're doing things differently, things are going to change immediately overnight. Is that what's going to happen?
Amazon Employees for Climate Justice reacted to the Bezos New Earth Fund in a statement, writing, "We applaud Jeff Bezos' philanthropy, but one hand cannot give what the other is taking away."
Actually, that is how hands work. That's a really good use of hands. Here you go. We're just giving you this thing. Keep looking at the givey hand. Don't look at the takey hand.
Large corporations understand that there's a segment of consumers who are green. There's an apparent spread of greenness among business, but when you look at what these large corporations do, they are both polluters and greeners at the same time.
You wouldn't entrust Darth Vader with the future of the Ewoks, would you? If Darth Vader turned up and said, I'm going to build more rope bridges and that for the Ewoks. You ain't doing nothing shady with the Death Star, are you, Darth? Oh, how dare you? Oh, it's a good job I've got this mask on. You see how cross I am that you'd even suggest that.
I'm talking about greenwashing, and I'm talking precisely about this apparent contradiction between suddenly every business is green, and yet we know the planetary fundamentals are continuing to deteriorate.
They're all carrying on like this. Apple, for example, has reduced its comprehensive carbon footprint by 35%, and all of its data centers and stores across 44 countries are powered entirely by renewable energy. Meanwhile, Apple, whilst verbally committed to solving the pollution problems caused by its devices, the culture of the company says otherwise. In a time when unused and unrecycled smartphones are literally depleting the planet of necessary resources, Apple continues to push its buy one every year strategy to keep its profit margins high. If Apple really wanted to curb this issue right now, it could easily make upgradable devices that would extend end-of-life expectancy and cut down on e-waste. That's really interesting, isn't it?
And the whole problem of certification lends itself to that kind of world, because companies can get them certified, their buildings certified as green, even if they're in the middle of the desert. Companies can be top rank as sustainable companies with very sort of peculiar metrics.
Yeah, I got the feeling when I was reading that Apple thing, comprehensive carbon footprint. It's such a weird thing to try to appreciate and understand, isn't it? What are the metrics? How are you measuring that? You know, obviously how they measure it is a way that comes up with a bloody good result. They're in charge of it. They're in charge of the survey. They're paying for it. They're establishing the method by which it is. It's not independent, is it? It's not, right, we've got some independent folk around who are going to really scrutinise the old carbon footprint. Just someone's going to, you've paid to go, yeah, good work, guys, carry on. The average super rich household has a carbon footprint 10 times the global average. Well, there you go. As usual, these issues tend to be about economics and require a lot more than superficial gestures, PR campaigns, fancy slogans and blaming of ordinary consumers in order to elicit real change. But of course, real change is not what's required. What's required is the appearance of change. But when it comes to actual reality, if you believe that there is an imperative to change the world in order to prevent ecological disaster, then what they're doing is continuing to exacerbate the conditions that are likely to bring that disaster about while wearing a sort of nice hat.
It's a very serious problem because it means people don't know what green or sustainable is now in a world where everything appears green or sustainable, and yet we know at the back of our minds that very little is.
You do know that, don't you? You know, like, I was speaking for myself, I think, oh God, these fruit has come in plastic. Oh, this can't be good. I'm having to throw this away. Like, I'm really trying my best, but I'm really seeing the limits of my personal ability to meaningfully contribute to such a huge task. You'd have to change the most powerful institutions, systems, and operations in the world. And the reason we can't change them with regard to this issue is the same reason we can't change them with any issue. They want it to be like this. They want it to be. So greenwashing is the perfect solution. The appearance of doing something while actually doing nothing. Because to do something would mean to destabilize their entire economic model and to deconstruct their power base. If you enjoyed that video, please give it a thumbs up or a like, subscribe to this channel if you don't already, and comment. We read the comments down below, as it were, and also sign up to my mailing list. Go over to russellbrand.com and sign up to it now. Keep watching, keep washing out the Domio jar for now, and just hope somehow that it makes a bloody difference.